$100 million. That is how much money was poured into a multiplayer shooter about stealing Sonic the Hedgehog figurines from spaceships. The studio behind it, the same one that let you command Roman legions and conquer medieval kingdoms. Creative Assembly, the creators of Total War, burned through a fortune chasing a trend. And that game never even launched. But that is just one chapter in a much bigger story. Because Total War, one of the most legendary franchises in gaming history, has been quietly dying for years, and most people did not even notice. To understand the fall, you have to remember the rise. The year 2000, a small British studio released Shogun Total War, real-time battles with thousands of soldiers on screen, a campaign map where diplomacy and warfare collided. Nothing like it existed. Then came Medieval, then came Rome, each one bigger and bolder than the last. Rome Total War became a cultural phenomenon. It sold millions and introduced an entire generation to grand strategy. Medieval 2 cemented the legacy. Modders turned it into everything from Lord of the Rings to the Crusades. The community was fiercely loyal. Creative Assembly listened. They iterated. They respected the players who made the franchise what it was. Then, in 2005, Sega bought the studio. At first, not much changed. Empire Total War added naval combat and a global map. Shogun 2 followed and is still considered by many to be the peak of the entire franchise. Tight design, beautiful art, challenging campaigns. But behind the scenes, the business was shifting. Historical Total War games had a passionate but niche audience. Sega wanted bigger returns. And then Warhammer happened. Total War Warhammer launched in 2016 and changed everything. Dragons, wizards, undead armies, and a universe packed with existing fans. It outsold every previous title. The sequel did even better. For the suits at Sega, the math was simple. Warhammer equals money. History equals less money. And the historical side of Total War started to wither. The first warning sign was 3 Kingdoms. It launched in 2019 to 192,000 concurrent players, the highest in franchise history. A genuine hit. But then the DLC got strange. The first expansion jumped 100 years forward to an obscure civil war nobody asked for. Bugs piled up without fixes. Communication went silent. Then in May 2021, Creative Assembly dropped a video. Development on 3 Kingdoms was finished. No more patches. No more DLC. A game with nearly 200,000 players at launch was abandoned, with critical bugs still unfixed and a promised northern expansion that would never arrive. Steam reviews plummeted overnight. Thousands of negative reviews flooded in. But here is where it gets interesting. While 3 Kingdoms fans were mourning, Creative Assembly was secretly building Hyenas. It was a $100 million extraction shooter. The studio famous for ancient warfare was trying to compete with Fortnite. It went through beta tests and appeared at Gamescom. Then in September 2023, Sega killed it with a corporate press release. Hyenas was canceled. Unannounced titles were scrapped. Creative Assembly started laying off the developers who had built Total War into what it was. The resources that could have fixed 3 Kingdoms or launched Medieval 3 had been incinerated on a game that never shipped. Weeks later, Total War Pharaoh arrived. It was supposed to be a return to the historical roots of the series, ancient Egypt and the Bronze Age collapse, a fascinating setting. But the scope was small, the variety was thin, and the price was full retail. Pharaoh launched to 5,000 players on Steam. For perspective, Rome 2, a game from 2013, had more players online at the same time. A decade-old title was outperforming the brand new release. Creative Assembly scrambled. They slashed the price and issued partial refunds. They canceled planned downloadable content and rolled everything into a free update called Dynasties. The Dynasties version was actually well received, but the damage was done. Pharaoh became the third historical Total War game in a row to have its support cut short. Meanwhile, even Warhammer was bleeding. Shadows of Change launched for Warhammer 3 at $25, the same price as an earlier expansion that had offered an entire new faction. Shadows of Change offered roughly half the content. The community revolted. Steam reviews were mostly negative. Reddit called it anti-consumer. Creative Assembly said that costs had gone up. The community called it a corporate nothing burger. Things got worse when the studio started banning forum users who called for boycotts. Eventually, the vice president issued a public apology, admitting they had failed to meet expectations. The downloadable content received a free update months later, but trust, once broken, is slow to rebuild, so the ledger reads like a disaster report. 3 Kingdoms, abandoned. Hyenas, canceled after $100 million went up in smoke. Pharaoh, a commercial failure requiring emergency price cuts. Shadows of Change sparked a revolt over downloadable content. Layoffs spread across the studio. A 3 Kingdoms sequel was reportedly canceled during restructuring. But here is the twist. This story might not end the way you expect. In December 2025, Creative Assembly held a 25th anniversary showcase. They announced Medieval 3, the sequel fans had begged for since 2006. 19 years of waiting, finally confirmed. They revealed a new game engine called War Core. They announced Total War Warhammer 40,000, unveiled at the Game Awards with David Harbour on stage. Over 500,000 people tuned in. The response was cautiously optimistic. The word cautiously was doing a lot of heavy lifting. Creative Assembly has made promises before. They promised to support 3 Kingdoms. They promised Shadows of Change was worth the price. They promised Hyenas would be something special. Total War is not dead yet, but it is standing at a crossroads. One path leads to a genuine comeback, a studio that hit rock bottom and remembered what made it great. The other leads to more broken promises and a franchise that fades into irrelevance while the suits chase the next trend. 25 years of loyalty buys you one more chance, maybe. If this story hit different, subscribe so you do not miss the next deep dive into a franchise fighting for survival. Drop a comment and tell me, can Creative Assembly actually pull this off? Or is Total War already gone? Thanks for watching.